Welcome to Listen by Gene Ginsberg. This audio experience and podcast is all about social media, digital marketing, entrepreneurship, and interviews with top entrepreneurs in the digital and social space. I am your host, Gene Ginsberg, digital marketing expert, #1 best-selling author, and award-winning entrepreneur. I will be sharing with you strategies, tips, and tactics on how to grow your business and your social media following. Thanks for listening. This episode of Listen by Gene Ginsberg is part of the Colorado Tech Startup Series. In this series, we showcase leaders of tech companies in Colorado, everything from apps, analytics, cannabis, and software and SaaS companies to show the amazing talent that's going on in tech companies in the state of Colorado. Please enjoy this episode. Hey everybody, Gene Ginsberg here. Very excited. Have a very special guest today, Ernie Graham from HomeBot. How are you?
Doing great, Gene. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So thanks so much for being here. And tell us a little bit more about your company. What is HomeBot?
So we provide marketing software to mortgage lenders and real estate agents that they in turn give to their clients to help them build wealth through home ownership.
Okay, so can you break that down a little bit for someone who's like not really aware or not in the industry?
That's my 8-second pitch.
Yeah.
So here's what we
Your elevator pitch. Now let's
Right.
get into the meat of it.
Sure. So in America, 83% of the average wealth that Americans retire with comes from home equity.
Okay.
People retire in home equity in America, but they don't think of their home as an asset, much less as a retirement plan, and they make terrible decisions. So when people buy a home, they don't think of it as an asset. And so they don't buy when they should, sell when they should, remodel, refi, stop paying mortgage insurance. There's all these things that they don't do that could help them build wealth or save money with their home if they just thought of it as their retirement plan. Because like I said, that's the bulk of your retirement plan. And so what our tool does is it's this dashboard for that homeowner that tells them everything. It tracks their home value and their loans and their interest, and then it gives them all this intelligence about what to do and when to do it.
Okay.
It's all about saving money and building wealth. And the cool part about this is that our customers are loan officers and real estate agents. So we sell to them and they give it to their clients.
For free.
For free.
And
because right now, you know, your lender, your agent, your relationship kind of dies at the closing table.
Yes.
Like you got what you wanted, I got what I wanted, I got the commission check, see ya. And there's this tremendous opportunity for that lender, that agent to provide value to you after the close throughout your life cycle of home ownership. And what they get in return, they get very loyal, long-time, repeat customers.
Yep.
You're more likely to refer them. And at the end of the day, that's a great way to build a business.
I love it. So does that mean like basically on how the market's going, it will tell you like, should I refinance or should I sell my house or like, is that the kind of things that you would be, so like give us maybe some examples of like, if I were, you bought a house, like what are the things that it would tell you to do? Or
so I'll start with like the obvious, refi. Okay. Refis are like those things where like there's booms, right? There's a refi boom and then they go down. There's actually about a quarter, 25% of all the people that are eligible to refi that never refi.
Okay.
And then there are others that could refi 2 and 3 and 4 times because it just makes cold-blooded sense to save money, and they don't. Because it's just, once you buy a place, you actually have this thing where you're like, I don't want to touch it anymore.
Right.
Even though you could save tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So one thing that we do is that each homeowner gets their own little dashboard. It's live and it's personalized and it's private. That's just for you if you're the homeowner. And it would say, hey, based on the rates, based on your loans, based on everything that's going on, green is good, red is bad. Here are some green scenarios where you could save some money.
Right now.
So and that's whether it's mortgage insurance, everything kind of distills down to green is good and red is bad because we all have lives, right? We're not asset managers. We're not hedge fund managers. We don't want to analyze worksheets and that sort of thing. So what HomeBot does, it just makes it really easy for that homeowner to say, hey, maybe it's time to go save some money.
That's fantastic. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't even think of that kind of stuff. So how did you come up with this idea?
Well, I sold my last company to Realtor.com.
Okay.
And so
it was also in the real estate space?
It was in the real estate space, not so much lending, but in real estate. And my co-founder and Ira, we ended up running R&D for Realtor.com for about 2.5 years. And we were actually based here in Denver, even though they're a California company. So we were doing a ton of research, a ton of development, and we were learning so much about the portal industry. So the Zillows, the Realtor.com, the Trulias. And the thing that always struck us as odd was that all of these big companies, there is a big lead generation business. It was a media business. It was about the eyeball, right? Yeah. And all of this data science, all of this data, all of this money and people and everything really distilled down to one simple value proposition. I'm going to get you to look at something and click on something, and then I'm going to sell your eyes to this real estate agent over here. And what we always thought about was, geez, homeowners are so underserved. It's a $31 trillion asset class, owned about $200,000 or $300,000 at a time for each one of these homeowners across the US. Surely we could create content that helped them see their home as an asset, save money, and build wealth. Surely now the question wasn't, could we build it? It was, would anybody care? So when we left Realtor.com in 2015, we actually spent a year detoxing from the corporate hamster wheel.
Were you like traveling and hanging out?
I knew everybody in the real estate industry everywhere except my own hometown, because I was always going around. But we actually spent over a year with just homeowners in the Denver market to figure out if they would care. Because Zillow and these guys have done such a great job at playing on our vanity of wanting to feel rich. Right. I want to feel rich. Don't you want to feel rich?
Absolutely.
We all want to feel rich. I mean, vanity is such an important lever, behavioral lever. And they build huge businesses out of, that's why the news leads with the crime and the fascination with the abomination of mankind, right?
Absolutely.
Because it gets eyeballs and you sell advertising that way. So what we wanted to figure out, talking to homeowners right here in this Denver market, was, do you care about being rich as much as you care about feeling rich? Because we're never going to get over the vanity, right? That's a fool's errand to try to get people to not be vain.
Right.
We're all vain. Everybody's going to stay vain when it comes to, wanting their home to be worth more and more and more and more and more. And so Zillow did a great job of that with his estimate. So ultimately, that was the flashpoint for us, where we're like going, holy Moses, people really care. They don't, after a great recession, a housing crisis, people don't want to get whacked.
Yeah.
Right?
That happened 10 years ago.
That's right. That's right. So that's kind of the background on that.
Interesting. So, and tell us about your background. So you said, it sounded like you started another company before HomeBot, right? That you sold.
Yeah.
So what's your background?
So I'm an engineer, software engineer, hardware engineer, and I got into networking, multi-protocol networking. So I was, early in my career, and then I ended up I just stayed in tech for a while. I was in tech, and then was completely burned out. Decided to take a year off. It was a 1 year sabbatical that turned into a 10-year real estate career.
Okay.
We don't have enough time to talk about that today, but I ended up in real estate. And then when I came out of real estate, I came back reincarnated as a real estate tech guy.
Gotcha.
So for me, being a practitioner has been a gift, really, as a technologist, to respect nuance, to respect just how complicated processes and industries are as it relates to something like real estate. And I think it's made me a better technologist, and really everything that we do starts from two perspectives: the perspective of the end user and the perspective of the practitioner.
Right. So were you in the real estate space during 2008 and the whole thing?
I was.
So what was that like on your end?
Well, I was in Telluride, Colorado.
Okay.
So that was wild. That's where I went there to take a year off. And then my realtor kept on saying, hey, you should get into real estate. And then I got into real estate, and then actually before the recession, and then it took off and everything was going great. And I was a broker and I did all that. And And then when the market started to dip down, that's actually, it intersected with some personal things that were going on. So, and that's what caused me to move to Denver. So I ended up selling the brokerage. But I think that it's really interesting. You talk about, ask about the recession though, because the way it affected me then and now is I think about all of those people, which millions and millions and millions of people who got their savings wiped out, who lost their homes. And today, my perspective is, how can technology, how can what we're doing, if it existed back then, how would it have saved people?
Right.
How would it have caused a homeowner to say, you know, I got $250,000 of equity, and that's down from $300,000 of equity. I need to sell this and put that equity in my mattress and go rent a place. And it's not going to be as fancy. I'm not going to own my home. But you know, I know that's kind of an extreme decision. But I tell you right now, if you went to several million people back then and made that offer to them, they'd probably take you up on it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. And I never really thought about it in terms of the technology that was lacking back then, just because we didn't create it at that point, and how things were, if we had the technology, how things probably would be very different.
Yeah.
In 2008, if people knew that they had to sell their home.
It really comes down to one, and I hate this terminology, but it's democratizing this financial intelligence for everybody, right? It's basically saying you don't have to be a hedge fund manager, you don't have to be an asset manager, you don't have to be a Wall Street person, you don't have to be, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to be a brainiac to figure out that you should take some money off, it's time to sell, or maybe now it's not the perfect time to buy, or maybe you shouldn't over invest in this. So in a lot of ways, we've sort of packed like all of that intelligence for each individual homeowner to help them make smarter decisions.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're only selling this product, HomeBot, to real estate and loan officers. You're not directly selling to the consumer.
That's correct. So the consumer never pays.
Okay.
Right.
But what if I was a consumer and was interested in a platform like that?
Well, then you'd need to call your lender or real estate agent and say, give me some HomeBots.
Okay. Well, because it could be like, if I own a house now, like I would maybe want access to that now. Maybe I bought my house 5 years ago and I don't really, talk to my real estate agent. I still would be interested in having a platform like that because, I'm like, maybe I need to refinance, or maybe.
Absolutely. I will share this with you. Number one, that agent or lender would be very happy to get your phone call.
Okay.
And number two, if they don't answer your call, I'm sure there's a lot of lenders and agents that would be very happy to get that phone call from you and say, can I have some HomeBot?
Okay.
But in Denver, since we're based here, I'm really proud of the fact that in the metropolitan area, 1 out of 3 homeowners already have HomeBot.
Wow, that's fantastic. So it looks like you're penetrating the market pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, we're in 50 states now, but Denver's home, and this is our test bed, and it's just been an amazing place to build this company.
Right, that's fantastic. So share some recent wins that you've had. I mean, it sounds like you're doing really well. You're in 1 out of 3 homes now in Denver. So any other wins you want to share?
Well, our ability to be based in Denver and that's, for us, has been really important, because it turns out that the Denver market has a lot of lenders, national lenders that have presence here.
Mm-hmm.
So our ability to get a lot of these customers, these lenders and agents, real estate agents in the Denver market, was actually the foundation that allowed us to go nationally. Because when we decided to go nationally a couple of years ago, it was, well, we already have presence in 20 of the top 50 lenders who have a national footprint. So I guess the win, if you will, for us is really it's going national over the last 18 months. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah, but we always bring it back home. Right. So as we develop new product, it's great to be able to be face to face with your customers.
That's fantastic. So what are some new initiatives that you have going on? I mean, you have, sounds like amazing wins, but are you developing more in HomeBot in terms of like the technology, or is there going to be new features or new products?
Yeah, I mean, without getting into the weeds on it, kind of going back to the conversation, we have this internal, we have a strategy, a consumer success strategy that we call Winter is Coming.
Okay.
Winter is coming.
Does that mean the recession's coming?
Or? Yes, recession always comes.
Right.
It's not if, it's always when. And so, and it doesn't really matter when. What matters is that the way that we're thinking about building new features, like right now we're building some technology, we're going deeper with really helping the homeowner understand when to sell, to sell the home. There's a lot, like in the US, we're in an all-time high of equity.
Right, because we've had prosperity for 13 years.
Absolutely. And so we don't, there's a lot of people out there that should not be sitting around just waiting for the recession. They should be downsizing. They should be taking cash out of their home. Whether it's sticking the mattress, funding their kids' 529 plan or their 401k, it doesn't really matter. The point is that we are actively building technology, and we're going to be rolling some really cool stuff out this year that really helps the homeowner understand that their home is the asset, and they really should be selling right now. And to get over right now, so much of selling is emotionally driven. Investors aren't emotionally driven. It's about numbers, right? Yeah. So I would say that's the biggest thing that coolest thing that we're working on right now is when to sell.
This podcast is brought to you by the Digital Marketing Method monthly group coaching program, your methodology for growing your business and your social media following. Join me and my group of supportive entrepreneurs and learn how you can grow your business and your social media following, where we cover topics such as Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, email marketing, and so much more. Go to dmgroup.online, dmgroup.online. Yeah, it is. It's a good point that you mentioned. It is so emotionally driven, right? Because it's like the whole thing about the American dream, owning the house, right? And so now it's like, oh, I have to sell my house. Like that's a little unsettling, right?
You know what else is part of the American dream? Being able to retire.
Yes, that's true.
And to not work anymore.
Yeah.
And again, that for us, we're on a mission to help the homeowner understand that this is their retirement plan. All those people and all of that work that goes to help manage your 401k and savings, who's managing the wealth of your home?
Yeah,
nobody.
That's a good point. Yeah, no one's managing.
If you
HomeBot is managing.
Well, it's helping you. It's HomeBot and your lender and your real estate agent. There's a cooperative there that's helping you make smarter decisions. So, what I always say is we're not trying to displace the human side of this. We feel very strongly that the lender and the agent have unbelievable sort of dry powder potential to help people after the closing. And the best ones, they get that. And so all we are is a platform that sort of, creates the recipe for them to work in a way that isn't salesy. It's actually has intrinsic value.
I was going to say, this might sound kind of off, but what is, if I'm a real estate agent, what is really my incentive to work with someone who's already bought a house, right? Because I got my commission, I'm good to go.
It's the problem. It's the problem. So lenders and agents, the problem is that, hey, once I've sold you a house or sold you a loan on a house, right now, statistically, you're not going to buy another home for 13 years.
Yep.
See ya. Well, guess what? Actually, the lender has potential to refi you probably maybe 2 times over that 13.
Right.
So it's a little bit better for the lender.
But not
but you nailed it, though. Yeah. That's the problem, is that historically, that's the way they think. The industry has thought about nurturing that relationship. It's like,
well, very little nurture. It's
13 years. I don't even know if I'm going to be in the business in 13 years, yeah. Right? And I think that what the industry already knows is that the healthiest way to build a great business, healthiest for your clients, healthiest for you, is to build it on this premise of repeat and referral business. And so then the big question is, well, how do you stay relevant to people over 13 years? And that's where HomeBot comes in.
I love it. I totally agree. Building relationships is really the way to go, but it's just I know that in the real estate space, not that I'm an expert, I know that, they have an incentive, and then after that is gone, it's kind of all right, see ya, thanks.
But the best, I'm telling you, the people that are at the top of their game.
True.
And not surprisingly, especially when I talk to lenders, most of the top producing lenders, you know why they want to be lenders? They didn't get into the business to make money or to make a lot of money. They got in the business because they want to help people. like, oh, I'm helping people buy their home.
Yeah.
And, you know, with scale and everybody gets so busy and everything, you know, all of a sudden everybody looks like a transaction. You don't have time and everybody's distracted on this. How are you going to spend any quality time with people? In a lot of ways, I say that's the problem, is that you become a victim of your own success. You have this huge business now. I don't know who to call or when to call them or what to talk about.
Right.
So
HomeBot.
it'll just be a transaction. So I think I'm really excited. I'm excited about every single day is that we're creating a really great value on both sides of that.
Right.
It's a more informed, more educated consumer, and it's a lender primarily, because that's our main customer group, that gets to do what they love to do, which is help people and make a great living and scale their business.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. I love hearing that. So we talked a little bit about your wins. So what are some of the biggest challenges in your industry? And that could be in the Denver area, it could be in the tech industry, it could be in the real estate industry.
Yeah, so no doubt about it. People, hiring.
People are always a challenge.
You know, it's interesting, you know, too, scaling a business, you realize like the inputs, whether it's manufacturing or technology or whatever, is people.
Yeah.
It's always about people. And so the challenge is, I think, particularly in Denver, the secret is out, right?
Big market for tech companies.
Yeah. And so if you're a Bay Area company now, right, and you're going, oh, the cost of living out here is X, and the cost of living in Denver is X divided by 2. We can go out to Denver and we can start, and we've seen this, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We've seen these companies come to town, and it, you know, as an early stage company, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on us to try to compete in an area where, quite frankly, we can't win. You cannot, you know, that benefit package, and this, I always talk about this, it's like you have to understand what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And when Slack comes out here or Amazon comes out here, they can throw money around, you know, and nothing against them. If I had all that money, I'd throw it around too, right? Because they know what we just talked about. It's about people being able to, and so they know that there's a lot of great, ambitious brains in this market, and it's a growing population of ambitious brains. And for us, the you know, actually that challenge, it's a great challenge because you know, there's really only 2 ways that an earlier stage company differentiates. It's not through the benefit package or the salary. It's through your mission, and it's through your culture and your team.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And no, you know, no one's going to have your mission. So you're either going to attract people, you know, you either attract people to your mission or you don't, right? It's kind of binary. Either you love the mission or you're not. And so for us, this idea that we're empowering the little guy, and that if that's your jam, that resonates with you, that's part A. Now, don't get me wrong, we're competitive when it comes to, I think we pay really well, but we're never going to be able to reach and match Amazon's top offer, right? But then the other part is the culture. And I think that what's really cool about all these ambitious brains in Colorado is that they're also human, and human connection and being a part of something that's bigger than themselves. So for us, our culture is just, it's everything to us. We're big on servant leadership, and that in a world where it's all about me, that we attract people, and we have a value around caring more about team wins than you do your own individual win. And if you're not wired that way, that's cool. It's just that you don't necessarily intersect with who we are as a culture. We even team sell. You know, salespeople like to hold that award by themselves on the stage, right?
Yeah, much more collaborative environment.
Yeah. So even though it's a huge challenge in Denver, it's exciting for us because what we're finding from a recruiting perspective is that we're like going, okay, because we just have to find out, do you intersect with those 2 things, our culture? Because if you do, oh my gosh, you're going to be so happy, we're going to be so happy, and it's a magical thing. Even though it becomes more and more pin in a haystack, it's become a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not always about the money, right? I mean, it also, maybe I want to work for a startup versus working for a Slack, which is a big giant company now, right? So,
I would even go so far, and I'm not dissing on the larger companies or whatever, because maybe that's the culture.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
You connect with that culture there too. But ultimately, if company A pays $5,000 more than company B, but in company A, you're going to spend 6.5 minutes every morning in the parking garage, white knuckled on your steering wheel, because it's an environment that is oppressive and not fun for you.
Right.
Is it worth $5K?
Probably not. No.
But by the way, that's for you to decide.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that we just want to make sure that we understand those trade-offs, and that we're making sure that we're hiring for culture first.
Absolutely. No, that totally makes sense, because I mean, you want to hire the right people, and it just depends on where they want to be and where they want to work, right? So
yeah, the cool part about it is that we have, and I know there's a lot of companies that are doing this too. I mean, if you're at early stage,
because you can't compete with
that's right,
with like an Amazon or a Slack.
There's some amazing cultures being built in Denver, and that's awesome, because the more variety of cultures there are, if you're an ambitious brain in this market, you get to pick something that really connects with you on a very, very discreet and real level. And I love that. I think that's really a cool part about the marketplace, for hiring, is that all these little cultures, and they're all unique, and you just got to find the one that you connect with.
Absolutely. That's true.
Yeah.
So piggybacking off of that, you mentioned, of course, hiring people. And one of the things that I've heard about tech companies in Denver in general is they use Instagram to put their face out there, to put their team out there as a way to recruit new individuals. Are you currently using that? And also, how are you using social media in general besides Instagram?
So first of all, as it relates to recruiting, we do use Instagram, and we happen to have a culture that visually is very fun.
Right.
It's like you could just look at the way we are at events and in our own offices, and it really, I mean, that medium of video, even just pictures, really, I mean, we just happen to we have like hot pink colors, and you know what I'm saying? And,
yeah.
And people
branding,
we have such great energy that really comes through that medium. I don't know that all cultures necessarily can come through a medium like that. It just so happens that ours does. Right. So Instagram is really important to us that way. Interestingly enough, when it comes to sales, we have just a really strong word of mouth in the industry. We really don't use social media for sales and marketing yet.
Okay.
I think that this year that we'll lean into LinkedIn.
Absolutely. I think LinkedIn and Facebook are going to be the two places that I would engage with audiences.
But, it's, again, early stage. It's like you can't, we try to put an oar in as many waters as we can, and then figure out which ones are the best. And then when you finally get to scale, then you can say, oh, well, this is the best, and we can afford to go second best and third best, right? You don't have to just. Of course,
you can. But for sure, I would say creating content, especially on LinkedIn, just because the algorithm is not like Facebook, where they're, put you all the way at the bottom. On LinkedIn, you can get a lot of engagement. So if that's a social media platform where your audiences are hanging out, then just creating content for now, before even doing any sort of advertising, it would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're starting to move into that area. It's interesting this year. We have a lot of generalists as it relates to sales and marketing, and now we're starting to hire in marketing with definitely more acumen around doing this more systematically. So right. I'm stoked about it, but I'm also like going, oh man, how I'm really it's I was like, well, a little bit of regret is like, oh, I wish I'd been doing more of it, but eyes on the road, looking forward.
Of course, yeah. It's always...
And if that opportunity was there yesterday, it's probably still gonna be there today.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I being someone who does social media all the time and loves social media, it's like I'm always like, how do you find a process or a strategy that doesn't cost you thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but still allows you to get in front of your audiences and engage with them. So.
Yeah, what's funny about it though is that sort of the nature of our culture. We're like this content machine, right? It's like we go to events and everybody's talking, and we have testimonials. So we got that part.
That's great. Now you gotta just push it out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Push it out to social. Awesome.
Exactly.
So one question I typically ask is what is one tool that you use that's critical in your business?
One tool.
Well, that could be a tool like project management tool, or it could be a tool specifically designed for your business. I mean, it could be anything that you think is critical for you.
Well, I won't speak for the whole company, but I will speak for me.
Sure.
And I think it's really interesting that PowerPoint.
Okay.
That PowerPoint, and I know there's other cooler, better presentation, but it's really about how do you communicate complex ideas more visually and packaged up to other people. Because at the end of the day, it's really just about how do you communicate. And I see PowerPoint. I have a love-hate relationship with PowerPoint. It's like, I love it because I think that it sort of forces, or it should force you to kind of condense your thoughts,
right,
and maybe be more graphical. But my hate relationship is that it doesn't feel like there's enough consulting or enough best practice out there to say this medium is really powerful if you do A, B, C, and D, and E. And I know I could Google it, but I'm always in search of like a PowerPoint consultant, because I think because I see my development, my product teams using PowerPoints, customer success teams use PowerPoints, sales use what I'm saying? They use PowerPoint to communicate ideas and plans and that so much. I know that's a boring answer, but
no, that's great. That's an interesting point. What about video? Have you thought about using video to kind of in a similar fashion communicate more complex ideas?
Yeah, we use Zoom and
Oh no, I mean like marketing videos, like for example, like a 2-3 minute video about like what HomeBot is about, or
we've definitely what we've kind of discovered too, which is really cool. I think about the way the culture intersects with this technology is that we started out where we hired a guy who really knew video, and he bought all the expensive equipment and had the screen, and when we would shoot video, it would always be not highly produced but semi-produced. Now the culture, and plus iPhones and Androids now have amazing cameras, is that organically people are just shooting videos.
Absolutely.
And it's high quality because it's it's a pretty advanced device. And we already see that popping up sort of episodically. And then I think that's our big challenge. Like I said, it's like, how do we lasso that in a structured way to get that online, as opposed to it just living on everybody's phone or being shared in Slack?
Yeah.
You probably thought I was going to say Slack too. Maybe,
no, I didn't. This question is up for grabs, right? Like, I don't know. It could be Slack. It could be project management. It could be.
I have a lot with Slack too. Just like you look at my Slack, and it's like a Christmas tree all lit up, or whatever. I love how it's taken out of my email box.
Right.
Again, but it's interesting because these are still just tools to communicate with each other.
But like with any tool, it can help you or it can destroy you, right? I mean, it's just a tool, right? It's just how you use it, right?
Sure.
The same thing with a hammer, right? So, interesting point. And then my last question is, what is your prediction for the industry? And that could be anything related to any industry. It could be yours. It could be real estate. It could be self-driving cars.
Yeah.
What do you see in the horizon for the next 5 or 10 years?
Well, here's what I think is really, really exciting. And that is vertical SaaS.
Okay.
Vertical software.
What is that? I actually am not aware of vertical SaaS.
So, you got Salesforce in the Bay Area.
Right.
And Slack and all these coastal companies that develop tremendous horizontal platforms that no matter what business that you're in, right? Microsoft with their Outlook and everything. It's a great horizontal SaaS technology, whether you're in healthcare or lending or finance.
Everybody needs Salesforce, right?
That's right. Or horizontal technology. I think where these big companies, these big coastal companies, tech companies struggle is when it's time to start creating software that is more vertically oriented to industry. And the reason I say that is because as you start to see venture capital and accelerators and startups start to move across the US, not just on the coasts, I think if you peel the onion back a little bit, what you'll see is that the reason that it's doing well is because in Denver, Colorado, there are a lot of lenders. So we can really specialize around a vertical SaaS for the lending industry.
Right.
Or in, maybe in Indiana or in some agricultural states, you'll see tech companies that are tech for agriculture, right? Because that's vertical now, it's specific to the industry. So you have founders that have domain expertise. You have companies that are surrounded by a lot of those vertical companies.
Right.
That if you're going to build an agricultural tech company, it's probably not in it's probably not in San Francisco, and it's probably not in New York City, right?
Maybe in San Francisco, but there's a lot of agriculture in the Central Valley, but maybe not New York.
You see where I'm going with that, though.
Course,
and so that's where I get. So for me, I'm not necessarily predicting the future. I just think that we've already seen some infill happen with the Midwest and throughout the U.S. around early stage companies and building technology, but particularly vertical SaaS. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that over the next 5 or 10 years. And I think that the dark side of that could be to where some of the coastal companies want to acquire these companies and pull them in. And it's like, don't do that. The reason that they were great is because they were sitting right on top of the industry that they were developing for.
True, but that is always the case, right? Everybody wants to have their big payday. I mean, that's probably a whole other conversation for a whole other podcast episode that you can come back and we can talk about that. But yeah, I mean, those are always challenging, right? Because you got a small company, you got a good culture. Not to say that like big companies don't have a good culture, but more just that it's a different, it's a smaller company and they have their own specific culture. Then they get acquired. But it's not always the best for the company necessarily. Sure. So it might be really good for the owner and the CEO of the company or the president of the company, but not always best for the company. I will say it is kind of cool though to see companies like SendGrid that are still here. Right. That's true. Where and even though they IPO, that they're still. I mean, I think
are they still here?
Yeah, I believe so. Sure. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Well, I think more companies are sticking around here. Even if they get bought out, they probably stay here just because, it's now becoming more of a bigger city and more resources here and more people obviously moving in. And so, I think the places like SendGrid probably are more likely to stay just because they don't have to move to the Bay Area now.
Sure.
There's kind of the reason why a lot of them are moving to Denver.
There's good food here now.
Exactly. It's a funny story. I remember, Anthony Bourdain. Yeah. So I remember back, this is 10 or 15 years ago, he came to Denver and he was really not happy with the food here. Obviously, he's a big food critic. And so I remember that, that little video of seeing of him, how he's totally bashing the food in Denver, which, it makes sense. 10, 15 years ago, the food here was pretty crappy. So yes, it has gotten much better chefs and, and all kinds of, food from all over
that's
the
cool
world.
Too. I mean, when you think about competition, I had a product guy executive many years ago. I had this idea for a product, and he said, he says, well, who are the competitors for that product? And I said, well, there are no competitors. That's what makes it so great. And he goes, Ernie,
there's always competitors.
If you're competing in a space with no competitors, you don't have a space. There's no such thing. If it's a real space, competitors flock to that. And it's kind of cool to see, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, but culinary too. It's man, competition is so good for innovation.
Right.
Culinary, right?
Tech.
Obviously, beer, tech, so I think that's really exciting, not just for the tech community, but the culinary community and so many other industries
that drives innovation.
In Denver. It's just exciting. And what I love about it too is that I think that from a leadership perspective, that you've got a lot of really successful people from the Boulder area and the Denver area that have done really, really well. The leadership, the government leadership has really facilitated a culture of co-opetition. You compete, you cooperate, the rising tide lifts all boats. We're all friends. It doesn't matter if we're competing for the same, product person or office manager, right? We know that we're building something that's bigger than ourselves, and that's an ecosystem of innovation right here in Denver.
And Denver's been really great at that in the last 10, 15 years. I say 10 years. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, right after the recession, it's like this place blew up. How long have you been in Colorado?
Well, I moved to Colorado late November or November 2000.
Oh yeah, but you lived in Telluride.
And then I was there for 10 years, and then I've been here for 10 years in Denver.
Yeah, it's changed a lot over the last 10 years. That's when I moved here 10 years ago as well to Denver, and it's a lot different.
It is.
For better or worse, it's a lot different. So awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here, Ernie Graham, HomeBot. Check it out. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Maybe we'll talk about selling companies next time.
Awesome.